Meeting number 13 is now called to order. It's July 5th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. in the Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers. Would you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kathleen, can we do roll call?
Davidson?
Here.
Fleming?
Here.
McCampbell?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Wilson? Here.
Right. First is a consent agenda. All matters listed under item 1, consent agenda, having been discussed are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda, will be considered separately. On the consent tonight, we have the usual miscellaneous finances, minutes of previous meetings, payroll and city claims, beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports and bonds. We have 2 resolutions, one resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties, the second resolution approving purchase of a chipper truck for the Parks Department. We also have set dates for public hearings for July 18th. The first is consideration of a sale of property locally known as 925 Wells Court, City of Burlington, Iowa. Second is consideration of sale of property locally known as 1014 Court Street, City of Burlington, Iowa. The third is consideration of an ordinance rezoning the property located at 2635 Mount Pleasant Street from C2 General Commercial to R4 Multifamily Residential Zoning District. The fourth is consideration of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of Gordon Street right-of-way located west of Baumberger Street and a portion of Baumberger Street right-of-way located south of Monroe Street. And then the fifth is a consideration of plans and specifications for the 2016 former Dresser Rand site cleanup project. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to have any of these items removed? Okay, I see none. Council?
Not me. Your Honor, I move to approve all items listed under item 1 consent agenda.
Second.
Moved in second. Kathleen, let's take it to vote.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson? Aye.
Okay. This is time set for hearing for consideration of a permanent encroachment agreement with CMM Company LC for encroachment into city right-of-way at 101 Valley Street, Burlington, Iowa. Publication's been made in the Hawkeye as prescribed by law. Mr. Tisland?
This is a request for encroachment into Market Street right-of-way located between Front and Main Street. It's a request to construct an elevated platform which will contain an electrical transformer and associated electrical cabinets as well as an emergency generation. The platform would be placed adjacent to the southwest corner of the existing fabrication shop at the corner of Market and Front Street. They have met with Alliant Energy officials and concur with the platform design and location. I guess at our discussion at the work session, there were some questions about the water main location. There's a handout that was given to the council kind of detailing that a little bit more and showing the location. They are approximately 6.5 feet just to the north of the water main. I did receive an email from the Waterworks General Manager, Shane Johnson, said they did meet with the applicant and they feel that this will leave enough room for repair to the water main in this location, so they don't have a problem with the proposed encroachment. So that clarifies one of the items that was discussed at the work session. They discuss on their comments regarding the location, kind of the other item, why it's requested to be here. A couple of the statements, they've developed a cost-effective design to consolidate both their new electrical service and associated equipment along with backup generation in one central location. The design on the west of the building will include provisions for shipping and receiving using not only their construction trucks but also semi-tractor trailers as well. So they feel that that space, I have a map here, with the construction of their new building would not be a safe and adequate location for the electrical transformer. They do not have the available space to split up the transformer, CT cabinets, and generator equipment over the site without impacting their docking operations. The new transformer is required to be 10 feet away from the back of the building and is the control dimension for the remainder of the platform. The top of the electrical platform would exceed the 500-year flood line plus 1 foot. So they feel this location and layout is the most efficient and safest use of the space for their shop operations. That's why they're requesting the encroachment. So this provides a little more detail on the setback. They did some remeasuring, and based on that and the design presented here, there's over 6.5 feet to the center of the water main, and probably at least 7.5 to 8 feet to the curb line. So this does provide more setback from the curb and from the water main than what was discussed at the work session. So they would include all the items on the south side of the existing building. Just for reference, in this general location here, as they construct the new building with docking leading into the building from the south side. So with that, if you have any questions, I can try and answer. The applicants are here as well to answer any other detailed questions you may have.
Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions? Lovely crowd tonight. Council?
I have none. It answered my concern that I had, so.
At where we left it last week at the work session, I was not in favor, but with these changes, I'm okay with it. I was down there looking at it today also. There's probably not a lot of foot traffic there anyway, is there, guys? No. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that's louder than words. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, just that the distance is greater than what they originally showed us, so, you know, it makes me a little bit more comfortable.
All right. Guys ready to take it to vote?
Motion to close. Second.
Kathleen?
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing a permanent encroachment agreement with CMM Company LC for encroachment into city right-of-way at 101 Valley Street, Burlington, Iowa.
Second.
Kathleen?
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
McCampbell?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it.
Your Honor, I have a motion for preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance rezoning portion of 2400 Sunnyside Avenue to include planned unit development overlay zone Harbor View Estates PUD.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Tisland?
This again is a request to rezone a portion of property located north of Zeisler's Landscaping business there on Sunnyside Avenue. His business was rezoned to C1 limited commercial a number of years ago, as it was found to be a legal non-conforming business at that time and wanted to bring it into conformance with the zoning code. The northern portion did remain R1 at that time. So he had future thoughts or plans to redevelop that site for residential development. So what's brought before us today is keeping the property zoned as R1 single-family residential, but also placing a PUD overlay on the district or on the area, which would allow some attached single-family housing. The zero lot line development, similar to what Mike Pearson's developed on Gear Avenue, although this would only be duplex townhouses, not the fourplexes that Mr. Pearson has developed. So with this PUD, this would allow all properties to be utilized as only a single family, but would allow attached single family dwellings within the site along the south border of the development, up to a maximum of 14 attached units on the southern side. The bulk regulations shall be a minimum of 7,000 square feet for each lot. Zero setback allowed between the attached housing and the lot width shall be a minimum of 50 feet in width. This is just for the duplex, allowed duplex housing on the southern side of the development. The rest of the lot would require to be maintained as R1 and the R1 standards. 15% open space provided. Architectural appearance shall be compatible in the area and shall meet all stormwater management requirements, which is a requirement of the plating process, which is the second step in this. They have submitted a preliminary site concept of what could be developed here. This would have to go through the plating process for consideration and approval by the Planning Commission and Council. This shows 14 units on the south side of the development. Each side would be owner occupied or owner owned. They would own the lot and their half of the building. For the units on the south side of this proposed roadway, all lots to the north of that would be single family residential lots meeting our normal R1 standards. In fact, they'd be 2 to 3 times larger than what our typical R1 requirements are, and a lot larger than many of the lots to the west of the development, probably more similar to the lots to the east of the development. They do show a roadway connecting to the north. The lot to the north is privately owned, but this would allow, if development were to occur in the future, a connection of that roadway so that this wouldn't be a dead-end development indefinitely, but would be until that connects up in the future.
No problems with the planning commission. Anyone from the audience has any concerns, questions? Okay, council?
Not here.
I'm just, want to reiterate, we're only approving the rezoning. We're not approving a plat.
Correct.
And that, when that time comes, if the zero lot lines are not a part of our ordinance, I'm not gonna vote in favor of waiving and creating zero lot lines for this development. It sets a precedent. I want some specific language in an ordinance that we can go by to approve a development like this. I like this development, I like the way they've got it laid out, I like the way they're doing it, but I just want it to be an ordinance form so that if someone else wants to do a development like this, they know the parameters. I don't want to approve this and then create new parameters.
Well said. Council, any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Your Honor, in that case, I do have a motion to amend. I'd like to amend the motion for the preliminary adoption of the second reading of an ordinance rezoning a portion of 2400 Sunnyside Avenue to include a planned unit development overlay zone, Arborview Estates PUD. Read as follows: for waiver, preliminary consideration and adoption of the second reading for a final adoption of an ordinance rezoning a portion of 2400 Sunnyside Avenue to include planned unit development overlay zone, Arborview Estates PUD.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Let's vote on the motion to amend.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, now let's vote as amended.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving the final plat of Christine subdivision.
Second?
Mr. Tisland.
This is a 7-lot subdivision located north off of Plank Road, just east of Gunnison Street, which again also is north of Agency Street. This property is zoned M1 light industrial. It allows any type of light industrial, general commercial type use. I guess the proposed intended use of it is for storage buildings or office type area for contractors or construction type equipment. They are planning 7 lots throughout this development, ranging from approximately 1/8 of an acre up to not quite half of an acre in size. This did go to the Planning Commission, was recommended for approval 5-0 in January, and the preliminary plat was approved by the City Council in February 5-0 as well. It does meet all the requirements of the subdivision and zoning code, and again, platting 7 lots, and any development on this property would meet the requirements of the zoning and subdivision requirements.
Any questions from the audience? Seeing none. Council?
None for me.
It's good use of that property. It was up there. It's just sitting idle.
Yep.
I agree. All right. Let's take the vote, Kathleen.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Well done.
I have a resolution waiving the 2016 rental permit fee for the Burlington area homeless shelter.
Second.
I don't understand why this came up again.
I brought it up. I had a request from Char to see if we can't get this fee waived. It's a $300 fee. They get no money.
No, I didn't know why, I thought we agreed last year that we were just gonna waive it every year, so I didn't.
Let me finish.
Hey, Tim, why don't you finish?
Finish, Mayor. It's a fee that's, comes about every 3 years for inspection. I also asked the city manager to put it in ordinance form, waiving all homeless shelter fees for inspections in the future, so that we don't have to go through this every 3 years, and the director doesn't have to go through that every 3 years.
Good man, good deal.
Hopefully they'll bring that forward before the 3 years are up. And, we'll get that down pat so they don't have to worry about it.
Good deal, good deal. Bashar, do you wanna say anything while you're skipping?
I'll be dead in 2 more years, so I won't worry about it.
Why would you say something like that?
No, I just, no,
Oh, wait,
Can I, if you wanna say, would you go to?
I said that when I was here last year, 3 years ago, I said that. I wouldn't have to worry about it. I just want you to know that all of our residents, of course, have food stamps. We never, ever require them to buy anything for that shelter with their food stamps. So all of our food, all of our housing, everything is supported by this community. So if you waive this, I will be a happy girl. Thank you very much. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Anybody else from the audience have any questions or concerns? And I hope that, that you have a long and healthy and prosperous life, Shar.
Well,
I can't believe you said that. All right, let's take it to vote. Kathleen?
we'll see.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
All right.
Wilson.
Aye.
Okay, let's have it.
Do we have a recording of Be Happy?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, this is the time we'll entertain comments from the audience. Is there anybody from the audience that has any comments, questions, or concerns that we have not addressed? Anyone? Okay. All right, going, and all righty then. Mr. Tisland? Councilwoman?
I have nothing.
Councilman?
Yes. My daughter asked if she should take my hands and mouth before tonight's council meeting, because she was the first one to read some material that was delivered to me. A couple of years ago, I went into quite a rant and lost my composure and was extremely upset over activities that happened on the 4th of July. And similar activities happened last night. And I'm very disappointed in really in the entire community. It sounded like a war zone last night in my neighborhood. And I live way out by near the airport. And that's it was obviously illegal activities. And if we had every officer that is assigned to the Burlington Police Department working, we couldn't have covered all of the calls, I'm sure, for fireworks. It was absolutely ridiculous. Some of them got out of hand and caused some property damage, and it wasn't only the projectiles that were considered fireworks. There was also glass bottles, as I understand, that caused some property damage. And probably the most disappointing thing of all was Dana Atkins' building on Maple Street was defaced. Dana does more for that neighborhood than any other person I know. She tries her level best. She started Kayla's Cupboard for getting groceries in the hands of people that are unfortunate that they can't get them by any other means. And she's done many, many programs during the Christmas season, and she never stops giving. And someone took a spray paint can and painted the west side of her building, put some kind of symbols that mean something to somebody, but mean absolutely nothing to me. And in this, some of this message that I received stated that people ought to come to a city council meeting and express their concerns, and they blame the police chief and the mayor and the city council for inaction. And that's really not the case. But I would strongly encourage you to come to a council meeting and express yourself rather than, I mean, put it out on social media if you want, but if you really want the ears up here to hear, please come to a council meeting and express yourself. That's the best method I know. And I'll leave it at that before I get too emotionally involved again.
I think it's interesting that they even brought the chief of police into it. Why would he not want order, and why would he encourage people to let off fireworks around his officers? I just think that's crazy. I'm used to getting called out for stuff that it is what it is, you know. They have to have somebody to blame, so do what you feel good, but that really doesn't make sense. So I would encourage people to come down and let your voice be heard the right way. Come down, sit in one of those seats, and when you get the opportunity, come and state your name and your address and speak before the council. I don't go to a lot of the sites. I'm not gonna bog myself down with the negativity, so I'm not gonna hear any of that stuff. So unless somebody comes down, I'm not gonna hear it. But you know, if somebody really actually believes that the mayor, the council, or the chief of police doesn't care about those issues, I think it's ridiculous. All right, enough about that. I'm just getting back from FEMA training. We were there for a week. It was phenomenal. One of the things that they reminded us was to bring something back with us. One of the things I brought back with me was emergency preparedness for the citizens. And I want to stress this to all the citizens of Burlington, Des Moines County, that it pays to be prepared. And one thing that I learned, and that I'm stressing to all my kids, everybody that I love, and I love this community, so I'm trying to tell you guys, be prepared for 7 to 10 days. That's what I would tell you. And your basements have water, have canned goods. If you don't have a landline, I would encourage you to have an actual landline, so that if the cable goes out, you still have a way to communicate. If you can afford it, have a generator, but be prepared. Having emergency preparedness, you never know when it's going to happen. We do live in an area where tornadoes do come, and we've been blessed, but the Lord doesn't owe us anything. I mean, it's just His mercy. So I would just encourage people, you know, if you want to be prepared, that's the best route to go, is to give yourself the best chance to survive in case of an emergency. 7 to 10 days is what they asked. I would say 3 to 7 days, but hey, it doesn't hurt to have more. But water, a landline, food, flashlights, blankets, a generator, just some of the things that you would need to survive, to keep yourself alive for a couple of days, so that the rescuers could get to you. And also, I just want to say that I think we've got great staff and people in Des Moines County and the city of Burlington that would do their best to try to come save your life. Do your best to give yourself a fighting chance. So that's all I got tonight. Mayor Pro Tem?
I only want to just piggyback off of what Councilman Scott says. And I'm willing to listen to people come and express their opinion, but I'd much prefer if they come with a solution, and also, and not just to gripe. Okay? Thanks.
I'll pass at this time,
But you reserve the right.
by all means.
Stephanie?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Your
Councilman?
Honor, I move that we adjourn at this time.
Second?
Moved in second. Kathleen?
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming,
Aye.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
This means adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Council.